If you told me in 2018 that there was going to be 3 sequels to the original Zombies movie, I would have called you insane. I feel like just the premise of the Zombies movies are enough to call for someone's public execution, but pulling in over 13 million viewers on your original airing weekend is enough to make any corporate executive call for 3 sequels. Of course, these numbers have probably diminished by now. If you were 13 when the original Zombies aired, you're 20 when this one came out. Which is not only enough time to probably put your morality in check, but maybe enough time for you to stop caring about this godforsaken series. So I'm sure by now, those numbers must have diminished. Let's check. Oh. Oh, open it. What do you mean? It's a piece of... Oh. Oh. Is there even this many people alive? Okay. So, it's safe to say that we're getting 4 more Zombies movies. Like it or not, these movies are here to stay, and honestly, I couldn't tell you whether or not I even dislike them anymore. I've been watching these movies for 3 years, and I kinda think the characters have grown on me quite a bit. But like I said earlier, the series has been going on for so long that the actors who were 16 when the first movie came out are 24 and 25 respectively. The actors for Zed and Addison are 3 years older than I was when I graduated college, and these guys are supposed to be fresh out of high school, which is why this movie actually serves to set up the send-off of these characters. But how in the world will Zombies 4 manage to be a good movie and set up 2 new main characters? Well, the only way to find out is to watch. Zombies 4 opens up with the same quasi-animation that we've become very used to over the last 3 movies. Did you guys know that there's a Zombies miniseries that looks like this? Yeah, I would watch it if I fucking cared. Our resident black man, Zed, played by Milo Manheim, is now attending Mountain College. Since the events of Zombies 3, it seems Zed has gone from trailblazer to benchwarmer. But it seems things aren't so bad because he'll be right across the street from his shawty, Addison, played by Meg Donnelly. Addison may be able to fit into any ethnic group she wants to, but it seems that skill doesn't apply when it comes to fitting in with college girls. This dilemma leads us into the first song of the movie, titled Legends in the Making. I've never been fond of any of the Zombies opening tracks, but it's kind of impressive how this one sounds like it could be playing in a Macy's and you wouldn't even bat an eye at it. Well, except for the part where they howl. I've seen 3 Zombies movies, and it never gets any less weird when grown men and women start to howl. But the song is still a solid 5.5 out of 10. Basic, but not bad. Though the choreo in these movies has definitely seen a significant step down. Someone in my Discord server likened it to TikTok dancing, and I can't unsee that now. Quick side note, did anyone else know that Disney Plus on PC only goes up to 720p? Because I sure fucking didn't. I've been trying to figure out why the movie footage part of my videos looks so bad, and it turns out it's never actually been my fault, except for the fact that I never noticed, I guess. This would be fine if the service was still $7 a month, but it's double that now, so what the fuck am I paying for? Across the ocean, we meet our first of the 2 new races. These are the Daywalkers. They were basically created to be a foil to vampires. Spoiler alert, the other race is vampires. And because they're Daywalkers, they control fire, and that's all that makes them Daywalkers. I'm dead serious, that's the only power they have. There's nothing else about them that makes them Daywalkers. They're like firebenders from Avatar, and that's literally it. The first Daywalker that we meet is Nova Bright, played by Freya Skye, a name that probably took a moderate 8 days for the writers of this movie to come up with. She's the daughter of the commander of the Daywalkers, Commander Bright, played by John O. Roberts. This guy is super interesting because he actually might be the most racist character we've had in all 4 movies. A disturbance that Bucky can certainly feel in his heart. This curly-haired cringe machine is Ray, played by Julian Lerner. He sucks. Genuinely, bottom 3 characters of the series, and it isn't even close. On the other side of the crater, we have the vampires, who, by the way, live in a town called Shadyside, which, just not the name I would have chosen if I wanted people to fucking like me. At that point, just name your town something like Mistreatment Meadows, or Evil Village, or Toledo, Ohio. The first notable vampire is Victor, played by Malachi Barton. next in line to lead the vampires when the eldest vampire never dies because vampires are immortal. Victor has also brought some of the very special blood fruit to share with his two friends, Vera and Vargas, played by Swayam Bhatia and McKinnon Knife. I was gonna make a joke about their names all starting with the letter V because they're vampires, but instead let's talk about how awesome the name McKinnon Knife is. That's so baller, it probably cancels out all the aura he's gonna lose for being in this movie in the first place. Blood fruit is the fruit that both the Daywalkers and the vampires need to survive, but let's just say that this town isn't big enough for the two of them. While on the way to cheer in football camp, we are reintroduced to two characters from the last movie, Willa, a werewolf played by Chandler Kinney, and Eliza, a zombie played by Kylie Russell. It's good to see Kylie Russell on the screen again, but I cannot help but think about the implications of her wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt. Very in character for her, but for a series that is about racial allegories, this raises a lot more questions than answers. Genuinely, if you had asked me, I would have told you the concept of actual race does not exist in this world. They also never referenced the shirt in any capacity, which, I mean, I don't really expect them to. What are they gonna do, have a whole song about the political and economic state of the world? But this is certainly the most politically active Disney has been in any capacity since inventing lesbians and non-binary people. On their way to their respective camps, the Monster Mash drives into some sort of force field that messes with Zed's Z-Band, causing him to floor it on the gas and rip off the steering wheel, which he promptly throws out the window. Man, these guys do not have a good track record when it comes to driving in the forest. After they successfully regain control of the car, and by that I mean roll down a hill and nearly die, they have a quick celebration because, to be fair, that's pretty fucking awesome, and Eliza decides that they should split up for help. This is because in this universe, horror movies don't exist, and she doesn't know that she'll be the first to go. Willa and Eliza split off together, but then Zed and Addison also split up, which makes no sense. Addison comes across Shadyside, a town that is cursed with eternal night with a magic barrier that literally makes it night the instant you step inside. Zed, on the other hand, runs into the Daywalkers, who immediately kick him because he's black. Okay, well, to be fair, it's actually because they think he's a vampire, but I don't know what race they're a stand-in for yet, so as far as I'm concerned, it's because he's black. Nova questions Zed on where he came from, and Zed has to explain the concept of race relations to her.
Are these monsters gonna kill me? Not as long as they think you're a zombie. Huh? That's kind of racist.
Ray, however, isn't nearly as interested in critical race theory and decides the best course of action is to burn him at the stake. Commander Bright shows up and says that Nova better have a really good reason for not immediately turning Zed into zombie Wellington. To which Nova pleads that he's not a vampire and he could be used as a recruit. To which Commander Bright responds, and I quote, "He looks like he has a strong back that could harvest a lot of fruit." I know I make a lot of jokes about the zombies being black people, but did that not literally sound like just straight up slavery? Addison runs into the vampires and they immediately assume she's a Daywalker, which is when the vampires use their famous wind and electricity powers to create a whirlwind around her and do absolutely nothing. This is where we meet Victor's aunt, the vampire Eldris, played by Lisa Chappelle. Remember Captain Bright? I hope so, because I referenced him literally 6 sentences ago. Well, she's the vampire version of him. They also have the same idea of taking Addison prisoner and using her to pick more fruit for the vampires. The next scene leads into the second song of the movie, titled Place to Be. This is when the movie really begins to lean into the fact that it was released in 2025, because it sounds like any other song you might have heard this year. It's not bad, but it's also not at all surprising that it's the second most listened to song on the album, because it's literally just so easy to listen to. I think this is also where it becomes a lot more obvious that the movie starts to lean into TikTok dancing. A lot of the choreography in this movie feels like it's not really necessarily coordinated, as it is just a big group of people doing the exact same dance about 2 feet apart from each other. Also, I don't know what it is with this series and doing this fuck-ass water splashing thing, but it doesn't actually make your dance better, it just makes it harder to clean up after you're done. The purpose of this song is to do 2 things. Establish and reinforce the ongoing conflict between the Vamps and the Walkers, and establish the Romeo and Juliet romance between the 2 next-in-line group leaders. This is stupid to me because it's hard to care about a romance that doesn't kind of just form naturally. These 2 only care about each other because they dream about each other. They don't actually know each other. And I know that sounds romantic, but think about the fact that the emotional height of the movie is now because it came to me in a dream. Anyway, the song is fine, probably like a solid 6.5 out of 10. The Daywalkers and the vampires go all the way to the old orchard. Wait, don't go outside! Oh. Okay, so they're fine. In this universe, vampires aren't harmed by sunlight. In fact, Vargas says it feels similar to a warm, cozy blanket. You're like 14, 15 years old and you didn't know you could do this? Listen, I'm someone who likes when characters or concepts or ideas get changed after a long period of time. For example, I actually liked the sparkling skin in Twilight. Now, huge grain of salt, I did think it was unbelievably stupid, but it made sense how they lived for thousands of years, and also didn't burn up in the sunlight, and also makes sense why they live in a town that's shady all the time, but they can still go out in the sunlight. But the reason that this doesn't work here is because, for all intents and purposes, these guys aren't vampires. You can change as much as you want about a character, but after you change so much about them, they're no longer the same character. And the same goes for like a group of vampires. You can only get rid of so many of their traits before they're not really vampires. Like, think about the things that vampires do. Turning into bats. Not like super necessary, but always a fun addition, and it usually helps sell the illusion or whatever. If they can't turn into a bat, some other form of super strength or super agility to help them get around makes a lot of sense. They didn't turn into bats in Twilight, but they could run super fast. But these guys also go in the sun with no consequence, and it's not like there's a timer or they have some other adverse effect. There's just no consequence. And okay, I get it. They can't drink blood because this is a Disney Channel movie, so that was always off the table. But you need to think about what you can keep if you're gonna remove like the biggest thing. These guys aren't vampires, these guys aren't daywalkers, they just needed an excuse to have some people with wind powers and some people with fire powers. Which makes me feel like whenever they inevitably get around to doing mermaids, they're just gonna be people who have the ability to control water, and that's it. After traveling a long way, the vampires and the daywalkers show up at the entrance to the old orchard. Even Eliza and Willa show up here somehow, and I have no idea why. Were they off screen making out or something? Why did the writers just have them not be in the movie for 10 minutes, and where is the footage of this? The group realizes that not only is the orchard locked, but they can't get in because of a magic force field. This is the first time this has happened? It's never been locked before? Of course, being the rational people that they are, they decide the only way to appease the gods and get them to open the gate is to commit genocide on each other. But Addison has a better idea than them all killing each other, that being they work together and find the 3 keys. Mr. and Mrs. Hitler were skeptical of this plan, but when Addison explains that they ridded society of all racism and discrimination, except for Bucky, the Commander and the Empress decide to work together. Or rather, they let the kids handle it because they fuck off until there's literally 20 minutes left in the movie. The minute that the vampires walk away, Commander Bright has the bright idea— wait, holy shit, he should copyright that. Bright has the idea that the vampires should take all of the fruit for themselves, even if that means starving all of the vampires and killing them off. This, not even necessary, by the way. This guy just really wants to commit genocide. Ray's dumbass shows up and agrees with this plan too because he's a D1 dick rider. At nighttime, the vampires and the daywalkers head to the conveniently close by cabins. Ray and Vera get right to butting heads, but Zed is quickly able to resolve it with his exaggerated swagger and excitement to finally be a camp counselor. After everyone gets settled into the cabin and Zed has his first extramarital romantic encounter—
Night, sunshine.
Zed and Addison have a small heart-to-heart moment where it becomes pretty apparent that this movie is functioning as the final send-off to Zed and Addison. Which, honestly, is kinda better than what Descendants 4 did. Granted, they had a much different case, but it certainly functions better than all of the main characters fucked off and also Carlos died. But whether you like it or not, the movie essentially tells you to strap in and get used to Nova and Victor because they're here for the long run. Which, granted, is still pretty ham-fisted, but honestly, probably still the better option. As if our main characters saying that Nova and Victor are in love isn't enough, there's a 30-second intro to a song called Dream Come True, which once again is essentially just about them meeting their dream boy/girl. To me, this just comes off as such a lazy way to write a romance, because the fact that they're attracted to each other isn't enough, the fact that they like each other isn't enough, the fact that they have the same goals isn't enough. They have to be fated to love each other. In the next scene, Addison clearly leans into the fact that Nova has a thing for Victor when trying to convince Nova to work with him. Zed also has to coax the Daywalkers into working with the vampires, though he doesn't hold a blooming romance over Victor's head. But just because the leaders of the group are on board doesn't mean the rest of the group isn't ultimately still racist, which is where the next song of the movie, Don't Mess With Us, starts. Listen guys, I'm gonna be so honest, I cannot be rational about any song where this little shit gets a solo. I was thinking to myself, why do I dislike this kid so bad? Isn't he just Bucky? And like, yes, but really no. Bucky had two main things that this little shit doesn't. Firstly, Bucky has a personality. Now, whether or not you like that personality is entirely up to you, but personally I did. Bucky was cocky and energetic, and I honestly found him to be quite funny. Like, the scene of him jumping out of his face while doing that same face is pretty hilarious and tells you a lot about the guy. But the other thing that Bucky had was stakes. He had something to be fighting for. Now, granted, it wasn't very realistic to us, the viewer, but to him, he thought he was doing the right thing. Zombies were getting into their school, and once again, zombies, like a year ago, were killing and eating people, so to him, it made sense that he didn't want them in their school. Okay, to be fair, he also didn't believe that they earned or deserved the same opportunities as the regular people, but that's an entirely different story, and it's neither here nor there. The reason I don't like Ray is because he's an asshole, for the sake of being an asshole. His motivation is that he doesn't like the vampires, which might be fine enough if we weren't also supposed to be rooting for the vampires, and we didn't also know that the vampires are just okay people. They haven't done anything wrong. And I might have even let the internalized racism slide because, yeah, like, the people have been hating on vampires for years. This isn't a Ray problem, but he's the one who instigates every fucking problem. The first thing he does when he shows up to camp is threaten to kill the vampires twice. Why the fuck should I care about this guy? Anyway, song's a solid 6 out of 10. The only notable thing that happens in the song is that Nova suplexes Victor because he's black. The song ends with them throwing some shit in a fire and getting a key from it. I have no clue why they did this. There's no reference to them knowing that they're supposed to do this anywhere in the song. Nova brings the key back to the gate, does a flip for literally no reason, and puts the key in, unlocking the first door and revealing the second clue. That night, the original four are chatting about their past and their futures around the fire. But when Zed and Addison go to sidebar about how going to college is really important to them, another surge of energy begins to affect Eliza, Zed, and Willa. Eliza does some science stuff because that's the only reason she's in this movie, and she learns that if these surges continue, all of the monsters in Seabrook will return to their state of primal rage. Victor wants to show Nova something really cool that he found, and this information makes Ray absolutely distraught for some reason. Hey man, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but you never had a fucking chance. Victor takes Nova to this dark and suspicious cave in the dark hours of the night because, must I remind you, he found something really cool. And despite Daywalkers literally having red in their color scheme, it seems like she's never seen a red flag in her life. This actually appears to be an ancient rave cave where the Daywalkers and the vampires used to party together. This is where the characters have their first heart-to-heart about being the leaders of their respective groups. But it's also where they start to realize that they might have feelings for each other, which is insane because this is their first full conversation. But of course, they weren't going to leave the rave cave without giving it one last performance, which is where we get our fifth song of the movie, the continuation of Dream Come True. This song is cute and all, but I can't really get behind it because it emphasizes all of the problems that I have with their romance. It is literally fated to be. There's no tension, there's no conflict. The first time they interact, they basically admit this fact to each other. And the second time they talk to each other, they're flying around in the air doing whatever the hell this shit is. But whether or not I like this song or can get on board whatever that is, I cannot disregard the fact that this white girl can fucking sing. It is undeniable that Freya Skye has an amazing voice. If I choose to keep watching these movies, at least I can take some solace in the fact that the singing's gonna be damn good. But you know what's even more insane about it to me? Is when this movie was filmed, Freya Skye was 14 years old. After the lovebirds make their way back into the rave cave, they notice puzzles scattered around the place. Not that it at all matters, but isn't it kind of funny that Victor's puzzle is just so much bigger than Nova's? His is so big that it goes down a staircase and around the entire wall, and she might as well be playing with a fucking children's toy on the floor. But of course, after solving the puzzles, they get the second key. The next morning outside the gate, Willa and Vera have a freak off and Vargas gets some clout goggles. After Victor inserts the key, the ground begins to shake. Or at least the camera does? Listen guys, I don't expect you to make an actual fucking earthquake to film a zombies movie, but this is just not good to look at. A giant orb comes out of the ground with a giant message that says, only one team can win. Not nearly as cryptic as the last two puzzles, but fuck it, I'll take a straightforward answer. This series isn't about wizards though, so instead of pondering such a fine orb, might I add, they immediately begin to fight again and try to push the orb to their side of the pedestal. This goes on for about 30 seconds before another surge of power gives Zed an aneurysm, and I genuinely think he's beginning to die. This causes both teams to forfeit the orb so that Zed doesn't die. I don't really know, they just give it up. But you know what? Maybe now they'll take the time to ponder their fucking orb. I swear kids these days don't ponder their orb like they used to. Jokes aside, is it not shocking to anyone else but me that they just left the orb? Okay, if it were me, you know, this is a little evil, but I would just, you know, sneak back there while nobody's there and just push it. Like, dude, that seems like so easy. Would this not be the thing that Ray does? Like, his whole thing is that he wants to backstab the vampires anyway. Eliza is able to track down the pulse, and it turns out to be deep underground. So Zed decides to go in and investigate. But to hype himself up, he'll need to sing the 6th song of the movie, titled Kerosene. My thoughts on this song are incredibly mixed. At first, I liked it, but then I stopped listening and started hearing. And by that, I mean I read the lyrics. First of all, Zed is rapping, and I don't like the way it sounds. Second of all, Zed says, bruh. But then again, I guess I shouldn't be surprised by either of these because he is of the African-American persuasion after all. While trying to lower Zed down the hole, they all end up falling in the hole. Which is funny to me because it turns out that there was another entrance to this cave that everyone else comes through anyway. And it wasn't like it was super hidden, they just kind of never really looked for it. I get that time is of the essence, but did you really think that this was the only entrance to the cave that had a giant fucking antenna in it? But Zed says that I'm him and he's 10 toes down. So he zombies out and tries to lift the antenna. When I first listened to the song, I genuinely thought I really liked it, but then I re-listened to it and it hurt me more than that time that I went to Waffle House and I was the one who was required to get into their mandatory nighttime fight. This song is not that great, 3 out of 10. Everyone works together and manages to get the antenna out of the bloodfruit root. This makes Novin realize that if only one team can win, then they all have to win together. But Ray says, no, one team means it's either us or them. Everyone was finally getting along and starting to agree, but one word out of this guy's mouth and everyone just converts? Once again, Addison gives a really unifying speech about how they're all one team and they can do anything they put their minds to. This lasts for all of 30 seconds before she leaves the cave and Ray, once again, decides to instigate. Ray pulls Nova aside and reminds her that the Daywalkers are depending on Nova to steal the vampire share of the bloodfruit. First of all, saying all of this out loud is crazy. Second of all, Vera overhears it. But what's so aggravating isn't just this horrible trope, it's literally that Nova says that she's not gonna do it while Vera is still in earshot. If you're gonna commit to the horrible overhearing partial information bit, at least fully commit to it. After this interaction, Nova is left with a lot to think about. Betray the vampires, don't betray the vampires. Oh man. What to do? This is such a hard decision that she has to sing about it for the next 3 minutes. Once again, wow, amazing singer, 10 out of 10. I don't like I Want songs. I don't really know if this counts as one, but I don't care for this song. The reason I don't really like these songs is because these movies are 85 minutes long and it's never really beneficial to spend 3 of them on a song that's just reinforcing what happened and not explaining new information. As a song though, solid 8 out of 10. The next morning, after pondering the orb some more, the groups realize that there are actually 3 spots on the ground and they should push it to the one that has both a sun and a moon on it. Wow, I mean this movie is just full of surprises. The orb breaks open and reveals a key trapped inside of amber, which the Daywalkers try to melt with their super hot fire. But the flames aren't hot enough, so the vampires have to fan the flames with their wind to make the fire even hotter. By the grace of whatever god doesn't exist in this world, this plan actually works. They grab the key that should be too hot to touch naturally, but whatever, and the newly united group finds that there's enough blood fruit for everyone. So there's no reason to steal the blood fruit, right? Well, you're forgetting the plan was made by Genocide Joe over here. The commander shows up because Ray told him about Nova's evil plan to split the blood fruit equally like they promised. Vera also told the Empress about Nova's evil plan, and she came to grab her fair share of the blood fruit. Nothing more, nothing less. The Empress also says that she should have Victor defanged for his betrayal, which is kind of insane given that he did nothing wrong. To her knowledge, he is doing the exact thing that she sent him to do. Work with the Daywalkers to acquire blood fruit. Okay, so we're gonna have a little sidebar here. The Daywalkers are definitively worse, right? Like, it's really not even a debate. These guys throw hands for any reason that they can find. The minute that the commander finds out that he's not getting literally all of the blood fruit to himself, he says he will kill all of the vampires. What the fuck? The vampires weren't even gonna take it. The Empress said she literally just wants her fair share, so her people don't fucking die. So the commander throws a fireball at the Empress and she defends herself, knocking the fireball off into the distance and setting the whole fucking orchard on fire. Not only is it insane that this small amount of fire started a fire this big, this fast, but also this was completely avoidable. There was literally no reason for Commander Bright to get so uppity other than the fact that he's just kind of racist. Okay, not even kind of, he's just racist. Back to the sidebar. My keyboard, for some reason, I don't know why, will double and triple type some letters. So every time that I try to type the word Daywalker, it comes up like this, and it's unfortunately apt in its description. The giant patch of blood fruit being destroyed causes another giant pulse to surge from the blood fruit roots, which causes Zed to go back to looking like Akanari from Persona 3. The Empress says that the remaining blood fruit should belong to the vampires, but Commander Bright says that if the vamps touch even one fruit, they're going to war. This guy has some genuine hate in his heart. He needs to either have the world's best redemption arc or die by the end of the movie, because I think I'm genuinely starting to hate him. The vamps and the walkers are told to pack their things and prepare for war, which pretty much no one is happy about, not even Ray, which is crazy because he fucking caused this. Even Vera apologizes, but once again, too little too late. But there are more pressing matters because Zaddy is dying. Eliza has to go scan the blood fruit roots to figure out what's causing such a strong surge of power. Zed begins to cope with the fact that he may have to zombie out forever, which essentially means dying for him because he'll have no real consciousness. Nova and Victor come to check on all the monsters in the cave, and this is where they reconcile with each other, and that's it. Nova and Victor also realize that to repair their orchards they need to get the Lightstone and the Darkstone from their towns and put them in the tower. There's a lot of moonstones kind of just lying around everywhere. Seems pretty unsafe. This leads to the 8th song of the movie, titled Possible. This is where Zed finds the strength that is needed to sing a duet with Addison and empower the kids. In this song, they literally say, "We are passing you the torch." So once again, in case it wasn't insanely obvious that you only have 12 more minutes with these characters, you better get ready to say your goodbyes. This song's actually pretty good. I quite like it, and it plays into the forward movement of the story as well. Nova and Victor have to get all the remaining troops to get on board with their plan, which requires harvesting and hiding all of the remaining blood fruit. They do this so that their towns don't go to war. But I feel like if they showed up and saw the blood fruit was missing, they'd immediately accuse each other and then still go to war anyway. I feel like you're actually making it worse. But they also have to sneak off the orchards and go back to town and grab their respective moonstones. Nova's a little too similar to her dad because she immediately goes right to throwing hands with 3 men that are twice her size. Victor uses his power, which seems much easier, but I guess Nova can't use fire powers or she might actually kill these guys. They get their crystal meth and make it back to the cave where they run into all of the blood fruit and both teams of warriors that are here to take it. Ray decides to try and be useful and does this.
See, and guess what I am? I'm a phoenix. Get it? Caw!
Seriously, that's your attempt at redemption. You should be glad you're getting 2 more movies because you're still on my shit list. Nova and Victor have to climb the tower while their parents are still trying to kill them, which is pretty crazy. Zed has to fully zombie out in order to support the tower while the 2 kids climb it, which means that he may zombie out forever. Low-key though, he seems kinda fine, like maybe a little tired, but nothing a 42-second reprise of Someday can't fix. The dynamic duo is able to place their moonstones back where they go, repairing the bloodfruit root, and the bloodfruit root is able to heal Zed's zombie cancer. The bloodfruit root also regrows the entire orchard with this magical rain caused by the moonstones. Nova is able to reconcile with her dad and Victor with his aunt, but honestly we should probably still kill this guy. I think he's a threat to every living thing. The "Yay, we did it, we're all friends" song of the movie is titled Show the World. Do I even need to talk about it? I feel like if you don't get the point of these songs, that's on you at this point. They all sound the same. It sounds like if you took every single pop song from this franchise and made them have an orgy. Zed and Addison decide that they shouldn't go to their summer camps because they need to spend their final summer before college spending time together. This is where they sing a really well done reprise of Ain't No Doubt About It. Also a really good choice of setting for this final song and dance for these two. Love or hate these movies, it's a great final scene for the characters. Willa and Eliza included. Don't worry about Bucky, Bree, Coach, Aspen, Alan, Allie, Bonzo, the Spectrum Squad, Lacey, Stacy, Kevin, and Tracy, Wyatt, Winter, Zoe, and Zevin. If they're lucky, they'll get a cameo in the animated TV show where they're in a time loop. The movie ends with Nova and Victor giving each other one big hug, because you know they have to earn that kit. Are you serious? They're actually doing mermaids? So this is far and away, from at least a story standpoint, the weakest entry in the Zombies series. It's a bit upsetting, but you do have to acknowledge the unique challenge that this movie faces of being a send-off to its old characters while establishing its new ones. All of the previous entries in the franchise only had to worry about setting up one group, but this movie has to do two. This movie has to set up the Daywalkers and the vampires, which, on top of not really making the groups all that engaging to watch, also didn't really establish their beef all that well, nor did it make them compelling monsters. I mean, think about it. Their werewolves are, they're werewolves, they're cool just by default, but the aliens have, like, cool technology and are super smart and fly spaceships, and the zombies are, I think, just an interesting concept in the fact that they're zombies that are humans. Like, that's kind of interesting in and of itself. And I've already mentioned my beef with the Daywalkers kind of just being assholes by nature, so it's kind of hard to even care about them because they're just terrible people. And like it or not, this movie did kind of make me realize that Addison's whole "I'm fitting into a minority group" thing did serve an important purpose, whether or not I or any of the viewers liked it. It was supposed to kind of make you want to root for the group that was the opposition. In this movie, you're supposed to want to root for Nova and Victor because they save Zed and Addison, but honestly, that's not really enough reason for me to care about them at all. Like, they didn't kill our main characters? Yippee. You can empathize with the werewolves because they were exiled. You can empathize with the aliens because they're good people and they just wanted to go to school. But the express motivation for the Daywalkers and the vampires is essentially just to fuck each other over for 90 minutes. It doesn't help that there are more Daywalkers and vampires who'd rather hurt each other than help each other. That all being said, I still don't even think this movie functions well as a send-off to our old characters. There was just way too much going on for me to really get connected to anything going on in the movie. And I said this in my Zapped video, but the tight 90 that Disney Channel enforces for some reason has really been more of a hindrance for most of these movies than anything else. And I'm also sure there were some budget constraints or something, but man, this movie would have really benefited from like another 20 minutes or something. And I'm also kind of upset by how hard they dropped the ball with Willa this movie. She doesn't really do anything. The only things she does are state the obvious / exactly what's happening, or growl at children, just like my old chemistry teacher. It's also not at all satisfying that this movie doesn't take place in a familiar location. You also don't get to say goodbye to any characters that were in Zombies 3 but didn't return for this one. Well, unless they're lucky enough to appear in the new animated spin-off. Zed and Addison don't really get full character arcs either, but honestly, you could make that argument for any movie past the first one. Eliza and Willa are much less important. Honestly, they were kind of just here so they could do some science bullshit. Zed literally almost dies in this movie, and the conclusion they come to is, we should spend more time at home together. And I think that would make a good character arc if the reasons for going to these camps weren't completely valid. Zed said himself essentially the only reason he can get into college is because he can play football, and he's been warming the bench since last season. It's also kind of annoying to me that Addison and Zed got the same character arc when they're two different characters. And I get it, they're supposed to be passing the torch, but when you do that, you still want to make sure your characters get a satisfying thing to do. If this were me and I was writing the film, what I probably would have done is, rather than establishing two whole new groups, is Make a new zombie and a new cheerleader or werewolf or alien. Just choose 2 people from a group you have already established and make those the main characters, right? That way you can also still call your franchise Zombies, because I don't know how they're going to do that going forward. And that way you also get to use locations you've already established, because it sucks that we didn't get to see Seabrook at all in this movie. It also makes it so you have to spend a lot less time establishing new stuff going forward. You don't have to explain to us what the zombies or the aliens are, because we watched the last 3 movies. And then maybe in the next movie you can have the 2 new youngins try and maybe even fail to get the Daywalkers and vampires to work together, because they haven't already done this before. Which I feel like I should talk about. We're watching them do something that we've already seen done before, and the movie tells us that to our face for like 30 minutes in the middle of the movie. I feel like I've spent a lot of time yapping about the story and the plot and whatnot, so let's move on to how the rest of the movie is equally as mediocre. I do not care for any of the new characters. They're all really one-dimensional. I think Victor and Nova are fine, but if they weren't, that would be a huge problem because they're the new main characters. But it's kind of annoying that everyone else's motivation is, we hate the other side because we were told to. And it's not like in Zombies 1, 2, or 3 where they had a valid motivation to be afraid of or scared of this new entity. I mean, zombies literally fucking eat people. There was no 2 ways about that. But my main issue with the side characters here is that none of them apply even an ounce of critical thinking to any of the problems that are happening around them. Also, Vargas is cool. Didn't need to be in the movie. I don't know why he was there. Vargas and Vera should have been merged into one character. That way, Vera gets more character development and doesn't have to split the screen time with someone else, and she could probably have something to do other than being Willa Jr. I also thought it was weird that there was 4 named vampire characters, but only 3 named Daywalker characters. Not really that big of a deal, but kind of more of a reason to make Vera and Vargas one character. The music was also so disappointingly and incredibly mid this time around, which is really upsetting. I didn't add a single thing to the Hall of Fame, so instead I'm gonna do this. Leave a comment. Whichever comment about whichever song gets the most likes on it will make its way into the Hall of Fame as an honorary spot. That all being said, the only song I think I should have disliked was Kerosene, and that was because it sounded like it was made by 3 white guys who listened to Kendrick Lamar once. To me, everything else was average or just not for me. I don't dislike any of the new locations in the film, but we never really get to see any of them. 90% of the movie is just woods or cabin in the woods. Like, they have this cool, sick fucking vampire civilization shit, and we don't get to see that at all. Overall, with its middling music, uncharismatic characters, and dull and poorly paced story, I'm gonna have to give the final Zombies movie a 4 out of 10. I will give the movie this though. There are no obvious race stand-ins here. So, you know, 4th time's the charm, I guess. Or, you know, I guess if they were doing intentionally, then they just fucked it up this time. For the fun score, I have no clue. This is one of those movies that's like really fun to watch at a surface level, but it wasn't nearly as funny as Zombies 3, which was super upsetting because I thought they really found the style of comedy that worked for them. And none of the songs in this movie really came off as super sing-alongable to me. So I think a 5 out of 10 is fair. It's not bad, it's just so painfully average, I don't really think going much higher than this would be acceptable. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Happy to be back, happy to be uploading. Especially because I'm scared if I don't upload, they're gonna turn my YouTube channel into a fucking Spirit Halloween?